Hi, I'm Emily Reaper, Senior Project Officer Disability Engagement at Life Without Barriers. I'm also the co-chair of our Disability Wellness Network, which we refer to as our Dawn Committee. I'm here to chat to you today because today is MECFS Awareness Day. MECFS is a disability that I live with, and it's an invisible disability. And it's commonly referred to as chronic fatigue syndrome. But a lot of us that live with the disability are trying to move away from that term and trying to encourage others to refer to the disability as MECFS because chronic fatigue syndrome is just one of the symptoms that we live with every day. This year is a particularly exciting one for me in particular on MECFS Awareness Day because recently there's been a lot of parallels pulled between long COVID and MECFS. And that's giving a lot of hope to my community because for a really long time, MECFS has been very misunderstood both by society and by the medical professions. But with long COVID, we are hopeful that with some treatments or cure for long COVID, we'll be able to be transferred over to those of us with MECFS. For those who haven't really met anyone or understand what MECFS is a post-viral syndrome, which means that you once had a virus and your body never re-healed from it. So for me in particular, I once had glandular fever when I was 17 and my body never fully recovered. Living with MECFS is difficult. It's difficult because it's purely invisible. No one can ever see the struggles that I face day to day. It doesn't matter how bad they are of that day, it's very difficult for anyone to see. The symptoms that I live with personally every day, I really struggle with light sensitivity, particularly as it gets darker outside. My sensitivity to light becomes a lot harder. I have a sensitivity to touch. I really struggle sometimes sitting next to someone on the train, for example, in pre-COVID times. If they were slightly touching me, it would be almost agonizing for me to feel that touch. Sometimes with clothing and jumpers and even wearing a bag a certain way can make my whole body feel like it's on fire. I also really struggle with the fatigue side of MECFS. If I push myself outside of my envelope by going for a walk 2 minutes too long, or I get too stressed out at work, or I take on too much work in one day and don't take the breaks that I need throughout the day, I will crash. And when I say crashed, for someone with MECFS, a crash means bedbound. It means all of those symptoms that I mentioned before, the light sensitivity, the touch sensitivity, the sound sensitivity, it all becomes magnified. And there's no telling when that will stop. You have to wait for your body to recover from that. Some people with MECFS never fully recover from a crash. So I also live with that kind of constant fear that one day I will push myself beyond my limits just too far and I won't be able to fully recover. I'm one of the lucky ones. I say that my baseline is 70%. So if I'm at 100% of me, that's actually 70% of what I once was. I will never get back to 100%. And that's okay. I'm really lucky that that's my baseline. It means that I am able to participate in the workforce. It means that I am able to work a full-time job with adjustments in place. But a lot of people in my community don't have that option. And a lot of people with MECFS are in that crash zone forever. And it is very difficult for them to get out. It affects me in the workplace in a large number of ways. The biggest way that it affects me is you can never see it. I fully present as someone who lives without a disability. I also come across as a very loud, talkative, bright individual. And so when people hear the term chronic fatigue with what I look like and how I present myself in the workplace, it doesn't compute, and it's very difficult for people to understand. I think one of the biggest outcomes from MECFS Awareness Day is I want people to really understand that the person you present at work isn't always representative of who you fully are. I'm very out and very proud about my disability at work, but that doesn't mean that people truly understand how it affects me and what that specifically looks like. Living with an invisible disability is both a curse and a good thing. I love the fact that I can hide it and that I can shy away from it when I don't want to face it and I don't want to explain it, and I don't want people to judge me differently because I live with a disability. But on the other hand, when I am particularly really struggling and having a really difficult day, I feel sometimes you almost have to fight for people to see that, and you have to fight to be understood and to be allowed to feel bad for yourself. You have to fight for that every step of the way. I've lived with MECFS for almost half of my life, which is embarrassing to say because I'm getting a bit old that I can actually say half of my life about things now. But it doesn't get easier. Sure, it gets easier to manage because you learn your body and you learn the things that push you into post-exertional malaise. You find those things, you find your level, but it doesn't get easier. I still have the guilt and the fear of what next month and next year is going to look like for me. I never truly know when I'm going to push my body too far or if that's going to happen. And that's a really scary thing to live with, especially when no one can see it. I spoke before about some of the symptoms, so the light sensitivity and the touch sensitivity. Another thing that I really struggle with is my words and my memory. I went from someone who was very, dare I say, eloquent, very well read, and loved communicating. I now find it really difficult to find the specific word that I'm looking for. I can see it in the back of my mind. I know that the word that I want is there, but I can't pull it out. I can't make that connection from my brain to my mouth. And a lot of the time I will say a word that's similar, not in context, a word that's similar in sound, because that's the closest I can get to it. I can't get any closer. And it's a really difficult thing. I know it seems small and I know it seems like you can get past that, but when it's happening constantly, and you're having to try and pull some of the most simple words out of your brain every single conversation you have of every single day, when you live with a disability that feeds off that energy, it is exhausting. I want people at Life Without Barriers to walk away from today's little clip knowing what MECFS is and having an understanding that, you know, we work in the disability sector. And just because we work in the disability sector doesn't mean that we know everything about all disabilities. And that each individual will bring their own unique self to work. And just to be gentle and just to be understanding and to be open. People will share with you when they are ready. And I think that will, you know, if you come to the workplace ready to hear, people will speak and people will share that. I'm very lucky to work at an organisation like Life Without Barriers. It has made me a lot stronger as an individual. It has made me a stronger advocate. It has made me find a power in living with a disability. I used to hide it. I used to shy away from it. I used to try to minimize it for other people's sake. Whereas in the 6 years that I've worked here, I have learned that living with a disability is not a bad thing It's a great thing. It is part of who I am. It is a part of what makes me me. And that is special, and that is amazing. And it can be hard, and it can be tough, and it can be all of those things. But if I surround myself in a workplace, and if I surround myself with friends and family that understand me and are willing to accept those things about me, I'm unstoppable. I can do anything I want. I can be exactly who I was meant to be. And that is an amazing thing. I know that's not the case for everyone that works at Life Without Barriers, but I hope it will be one day. No, I know it will be one day. We are working so hard to make those changes, and we are working so hard to make sure that every single individual, with a disability or not, feels confident and capable to bring exactly who they are to the workplace, and not just be accepted for that, but to be celebrated. So MECFS Awareness Day for me is about raising the awareness for what MECFS is. It's about bringing awareness to invisible disabilities, and that each individual brings something different to the workplace, and that's amazing.